Hey everyone, my name is Tristan and welcome to my workshop. This video is the second part of my all EVA foam Clone Trooper armor build. In the last video we made the upper half of the armor and today we're making the rest. If this build interests you and you want to follow along, the templates are available over on my Etsy store. Like I said in the last video, the templates were pulled from a 3D printed clone armor, so they're really accurate. Make sure you watch the whole video because I'll show you some pretty cool techniques and you might be surprised at how easy it is to make this armor. So it's time to make the second half of a Clone Trooper armor. We'll start by making the legs, and you'll need all the template pieces from file number 3. I already transferred the templates on 8, 5, and 12mm foam. If you don't have 12mm foam, you can stack two thinner pieces together to get the right thickness. All the parts will be cut out using a sharp box cutter and hobby knife. I start by separating the big sheet of foam into smaller, more manageable pieces. Make sure to keep the cutting guide closed because some pieces require outward and inward angle cuts. Those pieces are marked with dashed and dotted lines. All of the angle cuts should be around 40 degrees. This piece right here needs straight cuts all the way around except on the top. As you can see, I transitioned into an inward angle cut as I got to the top, simply by tilting my blade more and more. Then I transitioned back into a straight cut right here. Before assembling anything, some of the pieces need to be modified a bit, starting with this small rectangular piece. You have to cut 2 slits into it, and by the way you should have 4 of these pieces. This is what you should end up with. Let's move on to this piece right here and you'll need 2 of these. As you can see, I cut mine longer than the template so it fits my leg. Everyone has different measurements, so you'll have to make it long enough for you. Then you'll have to glue on a 2mm trim piece going across the length of the piece. I attached mine using super glue. This is a detail piece that goes on your shoes. You'll need 2 of them, but make sure to mirror the second one. As you can see, it needs details on both ends. To keep mine simple, I glued on pieces of 2mm foam. That's because, as I said in the last video, I was in a rush to finish this armor for Comic-Con. It's time to assemble a thigh guard. All you need are the 4 pieces on screen. First, let's heat form the pieces using a heat gun. The 2 bigger pieces need compound curve, but the other pieces don't need any heat forming. To glue everything together, I like to use contact cement. Make sure to wear a respirator because this stuff is really toxic. I start by brushing some of it on the 2 surfaces of the dart on the bigger piece, and after a couple minutes you can stick the 2 edges together. After that, glue on the triangular piece in its place on the bigger piece, and then close up the front seam. Finally, glue the long curved piece on the back piece, and attach them to the rest of the thigh guard. And you're done! Of course, you have to make a second mirrored one for the other leg. Let's move on to the lower legs and you'll need these 4 pieces. This piece needs rounded edges all the way around before assembling anything. To achieve that look, I use my rotary tool. This is what you should end up with. Now it's time to heat form the 3 bigger pieces. The 2 side pieces need compound curves, but the back piece we just worked on needs to be formed into kind of a spoon shape. Just like that. Now you can close up the dart on one of the side pieces, glue on the triangular piece, and close up the front seam with the other side piece. Finally, close up the back. Before gluing on the back piece, make sure to round off the edges it'll glue to. That's gonna give us a really nice visible panel line. Finally, glue on the back piece. And this is the look we're going for. I also heat formed the back a bit more so the calf area isn't so flat. And that looks pretty good. It's time to make the knee armor. You'll need the 5 pieces you see here. First, the 12mm piece needs beveled edges all the way around. So start by removing some material with your box cutter and then clean up the cuts with the rotary tool. And now you can see how I only beveled the first 4mm, and that's very important. I also heat sealed the piece to make it even more smooth. Now simply heat form the biggest piece into a compound curve. And glue on the thicker piece right in the middle. The small rectangles need to fit on the strap, so mark where they go and remove some of the 2mm foam before gluing the pieces on with contact cement. Of course, the strap has to be the right length, so make sure to measure it the same way we did the elbow part in the last video before doing any of that. Now you can simply glue the strap to the knee armor, and that looks pretty good. And now all the leg parts are finished. As you can see, I made a second mirrored one for every part. But of course, all the parts on a Clone Trooper armor have rounded edges, so take out the rotary tool and round off all of the parts. The only thing you shouldn't round off are the straps on the knee pieces. You might be wondering how to put on the lower leg armor since it's impossible to fit your foot through. The way I did it was simply by cutting an opening on the side that goes between your legs and adding a zipper so you can close it. Now you should have more than enough space to fit your foot through. And here are all the leg parts finished. I'm really happy with how they turned out and they were really easy to make. It's time to move on to file number 4, which includes the cut piece, butt plate, and belt. Just like for the rest of the armor, I used my box cutter and hobby knife to cut out the 8, 5, and 2mm pieces. All these pieces are pretty easy to cut out. Some of them have angled cuts, but nothing too complicated. Let's start with the butt plate. You'll need these 5 pieces. Start by heat forming each piece into a compound curve, especially the biggest piece. That piece also have to be rounded off, but only on the 2 curved sides for now. As you can see, there needs to be a panel line right here. You could score it with a knife and open the cut with heat, but I prefer using my wood burner. I taped together 2 metal rulers which I'll use as a guide to get the cleanest line possible. Of course, when burning foam, make sure you wear a mask. And that panel line looks really nice. Let's attach these 3 pieces together using contact cement. As you can see, I apply glue on the top of the 2 side pieces and the underside of the centerpiece. That's because they don't attach edge to edge like most pieces on this build. Instead, you have to stick the side pieces under the centerpiece to get a 3D effect. This is what you should end up with. Now simply glue on the 2 remaining pieces on and the butt plate is finished. It's time to make the cut piece using the 5 pieces you see here. Start by gluing the 2 bigger pieces together, making sure to get a really clean seam. Then glue on the lower piece at the bottom and follow up with the 2 curved side pieces. And that looks great. I decided to heat form the cut piece after assembly because it doesn't have any extreme curves. As you can see, there needs to be a panel line right here. I'll make it using once again my wood burner. Of course, the guide was really helpful here. It's time to make the belt. As you can see on the template, the center is 5mm thick, but the sides are 3mm thicker. So I just used 8mm foam for them. Gluing the 8mm strips on both sides is pretty easy. And I simply cut off the excess material. It's time to make sure everything fits you properly. So put on the cut piece and butt plate. I used tape to hold them on. If the cut piece is too long, you'll have to add marks where the 2 pieces overlap. Then you can take them off and cut off the excess foam from the cut piece. I didn't do that since mine fit me perfectly. Now to make sure the belt fits, put on the same pieces as earlier plus the abdominal section and put the belt over them. Find where the belt overlaps itself and mark the spot using a Sharpie. Now measure how much material you need to remove and make a mark half of that length with a Sharpie. Then cut off the material and use the offcut on the other side so you remove the same amount. I'm doing this to keep the seams centered because we're gonna hide them with more pieces later. And now the base of your belt is finished. There has to be 2 panel lines here, so I quickly made them with my wood burner. Next, these 2 rectangles go on each end of the belt. The detonator will attach to those later. These 2mm pieces with panel lines scored in them also get glued on the belt. Use the template to place them in the right spot. And now the belt is finished. It's time to make the detonator. First, heat form this piece into a cylinder. Next, glue the ends together to close out the cylinder. This small piece with the scored lines goes on the cylinder. Next, round up the edges on both ends so the next pieces fit better. Here are the template pieces for the caps that go on each end. And here are the finished parts. They're pretty easy to make, it just takes a while. I simply glued on the cap with the rectangle on the side with the buttons, and the other cap goes on the other side. And the detonator is finished. Just like we did for the legs, the cut piece and butt plate also have to be rounded to match the look. It's time for the final parts of the armor, which are the belt boxes. The templates for them are in file number 5. The first one to make is this one. It's made from one 10mm rectangle and two smaller 5mm rectangles. I glued everything using super glue. By the way, you'll have to make 2 of each box and you don't have to mirror them. And here is the first box finished. The second box is just 2 pieces, and to make it easier I just used 2 pieces of 8mm foam. They got glued together using contact cement. The third box is made from 4 pieces. 2 10mm pieces and 2 5mm details. You just have to stack them on top of each other to get the final result. Box number 4 is where it starts getting complicated. I separated the template into 2 to make the assembly easier. The lower half is just 2 10mm rectangles and 1 5mm rectangle. The upper half is 3 10mm rectangles and 3 5mm detail pieces. Assemble the 2 parts separately and glue them together to get this. The final box is the most difficult. It's made from 2 8mm pieces. As you can see, those pieces have a bunch of V-cuts underneath so you can fold them into actual boxes. Start by folding up the bigger piece. That will be the base of the box. Next, glue on the smaller piece on the bigger one and then fold the sides and top to finish the box. This is what you should end up with. The 2 boxes on screen need details carved in. I like to use a metal erasing stencil for small details. The boxes each have 2 small details, but the bigger box also has a much bigger groove. I used a straight tip on my wood burner and a metal roller to guide the tool. And this is what you should end up with. Here are all the boxes assembled. As you can see, I made 2 of each. I decided to clean up some of the edges using my rotary tool, and I even rounded some of them. And this is the result. Now all you have to do is to glue the boxes and the detonator on the belt using contact cement, and this is what you should end up with. I'd recommend using a reference picture for the spacing because there isn't much space between the boxes. I also added Velcro so the belt can close. And with that done, the armor is finished. And here's the armor all finished. I'm really happy with the shape of the pieces and how clean the seams and details are. If you want to know how I painted the armor and attached everything together, that's gonna happen in the next video. This build is definitely a big project because of the amount of pieces, but it's not a hard build at all. If you've already made something out of EVA foam before, making this armor shouldn't be a problem. So as I said at the start of the video, the templates to make this armor are available over on my Etsy store along with many others. And if you want to see more of what I do, things that don't always make it into my videos, you can go follow me on Instagram. All the links will be in the description. There's a lot more content coming soon to the channel, so stay tuned. But for now, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, you can leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more cool builds like this one. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.